Hey Reddit, what's your holy crap I've been on the wrong side of things for so long story? Growing up there was this stop sign outside the entrance of our neighborhood that apparently was being covered all the time by the old lady's tree. So growing up I never noticed it was there, till one day we got a new cop in town. And as per usual I going about my day when I noticed I'm being pulled over. The cop say to me ran past that stop sign. And he pointed at what was the bottom 25% of one. I said to him, wow, I've lived here my whole life and never noticed that. I must have been running it this whole time. He smiled at me and gave me a verbal. I've felt like a poor victim of my terrible wife for being in a dead bedrooms type of marriage for the last few years. A few weeks back it dawned on me that she probably doesn't want me because honestly, I wouldn't want me either. I've gotten so fat and unattractive. All this time, she's still being so helpful with everything around the house and nice about everything else, so I just realized I was being a selfish terrible husband instead of the other way around. I'm working on changing that. Antibiotics. My mother always told me never to take them and that they weaken the immune system and so forth. Well, I had strep throat and I'm a 911 dispatcher. These are two things you can't have at the same time. Hospital gave me the antibiotics and they worked almost instantly. Back to work the next day. Strep throat without antibiotics can turn into rheumatic fever. That crap is no joke. My dad was an alcoholic and I was in my 20s and on my own when I realized that when you take the cap off of a bottle of liquor, fifth, quart, whatever, you didn't just toss it away as he did. He would do that and then drink until the bottle was empty. Took less time than you would think. Dang. Organ donation. Around the time I first got my driving license, I heard from somewhere, don't remember where, that being an organ donor was a death sentence because doctors would see that and ignore you so you could die and they can harvest your fresh organs. Years later I learned, on Reddit of all places, that if left to rot in a hospital bed, your organs will die with you, making them useless for transplant. When I renewed my driver's license, I opted in. Unfortunately, I tend to get sucked into work politics. A work colleague tells me that they are being bullied by others, recounting incidents tearfully. Another will criticize a manager or superior, labeling them incompetent and listing off incidents angrily. I listen and try to show empathy and offer advice. I later find out that the person being bullied is constantly getting into trouble for not working, just slacking off on day-long coffee breaks and gossiping. I later find out that the person claiming incompetence of one of the managers has been running around trying to undermine said manager, telling staff not to obey them. Unfortunately, this has led to me basically not engaging with anyone at work. Being edgy and slightly rude, sarcastic all the time to be funny. More often than not people just see you as being an butthole and won't find it funny. I wish my sister would realize this. She would be way more tolerable if she would drop the sarcasm and attacking people's insecurities just for some laughs. My friends and I, in high school, discovered edgy put-down humor, and how fun it was to direct it at strangers among ourselves. We'd compete to see who could come up with the most outrageous put-downs for laughs. I remember it being quite hilarious. Over time, though, like the next 5-8 years, this got to be a habit with me to the point that I was doing it by myself in my head, all the time. And eventually, I skipped the funny part. I was just instantly hating everyone I laid eyes on. One day, I'm on the city bus, and a cute young couple is a few seats away, holding hands, and I'm just standing there hating them. I suddenly realize that I'm sneering at them, and I ask myself, dude, what the frick is your problem? I thought about it, realized it was just this weird habit from high school that got out of control, and I ditched it that day. Went back to my natural resting attitude towards people and life, which is really quite positive, and it was immediately like a huge cloud lifted from my life. Whoa, good on you for realizing this and doing something about it. Was told at a young age by my grandmother that the reason my wealthy by marriage aunt never came around was because she was snooty and thought she was better than her roots. My grandmother made me dislike her for this and other reasons by always bad-mouthing her, Come to find out, my grandmother's husband molested and attempted to rape a couple of my aunts, including the wealthy one, when they were young. Longer story, but that was a very life-changing reveal for me. This was the man I considered my grandfather. I found out when I was graduating from college. My grandmother and her monster are now dead, to me, to say the least. Without any sort of context, and without any real studying, I thought that Scientology was a form of faith based in facts, logic, and rational thought. Internet didn't exist yet, and I wasn't the most diligent student. I had a guy straight up tell me I was a Scientologist for believing in science and refused to hear me when I tried to explain to him what Scientology actually was. Not me, but a friend I used to work with randomly asked the group one afternoon. We were a group of adolescent farmers. "Don't you guys hate when you get crap on your balls?" After a couple uncomfortable stares and a few "I think you're doing it wrong" statements, we learned he had been wiping back to front all his life, resulting in crappy balls when they were particularly nasty. Cherry on the cake was around 15 seconds or so of awkward silence later when he muttered, barely audibly, "I'm so mad at my parents." I wipe back to front, but I've never encountered this issue. There's a good several inches of room between where the butt ends and the sack begins. I can only assume that this person wiped with broad strokes all along his taint, like an artist specializing in poop abstract expressionism. Sauerkraut. Got it into my head that I hated it because I hated coleslaw. Then I was in my 30s, hungry. I had like 5 minutes before I had to go on stage, and there's a bratwurst cart nearby. I love bratwurst. I sent someone to get a bratwurst, no kraut, and he misheard me, but I said screw it, and then I bit into heaven. The best sauerkraut I have ever eaten was at a Polish restaurant in Manitou Springs. They made their own. I thought I'd hate it. Then I ate it on a hot dog because I thought it was just a lot of onions. I didn't hate it. I was calling a xylophone a glockenspiel, and vice versa, for 25 years until my friend, after more than a few debates on the topic, introduced me to a professional percussionist. You had the marimba down pat though. I just turned 20 years old. About 1 month ago I figured out that I can remove the silverware basket from the dishwasher to make it easier to put away. Wait until you learn that putting all forks in one well, all spoons in another, means you can empty it in about 4 handfuls. Hated spicy foods growing up. Just took a little bit of repeated exposure for me to see the light and embrace capsaicin as my true lord and savior. I used to vehemently believe in the friend zone. For most of my teens, if a girl I liked somehow didn't manage to read my mind and know that I liked her, because I sure as heck wasn't going to tell her I'm not a lunatic, then I'd just sort of passively go welp, such as the friend zone, and move on. When I was hanging out with one of my friends, he sort of gave me a talking to after casually mentioning it to him, and something in my head just flipped. The gist of it basically went, the friend zone is bulls. Friendship isn't something you escape. If a girl doesn't like you back, it's not because you're her friend. The reason is irrelevant. Life's not a rom-com. You can't change her mind with a costume change and montage. If you like her, tell her. If she doesn't like you back, say fair enough and forget about it. What really stuck with me was the friendship isn't something you escape. Smart friend. I realized how awesome it is to play D&D with a chill group of friends who actually get into it. Growing up I was always told it was nerd crap and believed those words, till I actually was talked into trying it. Holy crap man, that game is awesome. Never grow up. When I was growing up, anytime we went out to eat my dad would ask for no onions if onions were involved. I assumed that onions were bad, so I disliked them myself for years unless they were caramelized or otherwise cooked way down like in a stew. Then I forgot to ask for a burger without onions. Holy crap, onions are amazing. I had the classic nice girl syndrome. I was overweight, had braces, glasses and a terrible haircut. I despise all the girls in my class who were hooking up and going to parties, and how dare they go out and enjoy themselves when I was so miserable. I developed this toxic, self-righteous mindset of, well, they're all just S and I'm a good girl that is waiting for the right man. I was in complete denial, when I know full well that I would have been doing the same if I had the opportunity to. Losing weight, Exercising and being diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well as just growing out of my teenage years helped with me realizing that I was actively pushing people away. People don't owe me crap. I'm glad I'm not the entitled victim I was back then. I thought all the pretty girls in my class were just vapid idiots for being obsessed with boys when I was more interested in deep things like reading books or whatever. Hooty hoo dumbass. Turns out I'm a giant lesbian idiot. Reading Robert Caro's The Years of Lyndon Johnson made me give up on political idealism. For years I liked politicians who tell it like it is and are outspoken about big ideas. I thought that the whole country should listen to these loud political figures and that everyone who disagrees with them is a shill who's selling us out because they aren't idealistic enough. Caro's books bashed into my head that the most successful politicians are pragmatists who know how to read a political room and use unorthodox and sometimes aggressive tactics to push for change. They're the people who make deals across the aisle and continually search for some kind of common ground that builds to what they want. Idealists can be nice, but they rarely accomplish anything because they alienate all of their colleagues. Broccoli. My goodness, what a magical vegetable. As a kid I was a bit picky about what I ate, but I eventually grew out of it. I got to experience so many delicious foods, but the one that floored me was broccoli. There are different ways to prepare it that just makes a dish go beyond what thought imaginable. My favorite way to prepare it is lightly steamed with lemon and crushed black pepper. I've found that most people who hate broccoli have only had it boiled into oblivion. It's much better steamed or roasted. Drinking till you black out every night isn't cool or trendy. I had a problem. Go me 1 year sober today. Read something about how crossing your legs or bending your legs at your knees while you poop makes it a lot easier to go. The next time I had to poop, I crossed my legs and it was like amazing. Sounds gross, but it just came right out. Everyone should try this. It's so much easier to go. I didn't like tacos until I was about 8. In reality, I never tried them and I thought they looked gross, so I just claimed to not like the taste. Then, I finally broke and I tried one. I'm a changed woman. I used to be staunchly against psychiatric medication. Thought it poisoned the mind and turned people into passive sheep, etc. I was also severely depressed with bipolar disorder. Refused medication for years because of my beliefs. And I also felt it would be a moral failing on my part if I succumbed to big pharma and took the meds. Then I had a baby, and postpartum depression hit me like a stone. I was non-functional, and my child was suffering for it. Seeing that my mental issues were hurting my child forced me to finally seek help. I swallowed my pride, talked to my doctor, and started the long journey of cycling through medications to find one that works. Started with a generic antidepressant. Within 1 week I was up and around, doing things. I could breathe more easily, I felt lighter, and everything was literally brighter. Like a little grey cloud had been lifted off my face. That was the moment I realized how much I had been depriving of myself by being anti-medication. I'm now a vocal advocate for psych meds. They aren't perfect, but they helped me put my life back together. I was stupid and stubborn to refuse them for so long. I am so glad it worked out for you. I was the same way, but when I finally gave in to taking meds it was just like you said, as if the better parts of me started to shine a little brighter. I also find I'm able to more proactively handle the bad times rather than letting it all build up. Keep up your good work on your mental health. My love life. I was an obnoxious douche most of high school and first half of college. I only ever saw women around me as things to be chased. I was shallow and depressed and couldn't for the life of me figure out why no girls were ever interested in me. But naturally I gave most if not all of my self-worth over to my relationship status. My grades suffered. I went into cycles of rejection. Woe is me. New girl to chase. Repeat. And it felt like I didn't get as much done in college as I could have. My social life suffered and I genuinely regret letting it go as far as it did because I was surrounded by amazing people in college. People who still put up with me to this day for God only knows what reasons. Most importantly, I straightened up and started flying right like a month before I met my future wife. I genuinely believe if I hadn't, she wouldn't be with me today. I would have ruined it like I did with everything else. Mormonism. Age 10, didn't know anything else. Age 20, autopilot but still going strong. Age 30, shitballs what a minfuck. I wasn't raised in a cult. Was I? Guys, hello? Used my son's electric razor yesterday out of curiosity. 40 years of shaving with a blade came to an end in about 5 seconds. Holy crap. This is great. I'll admit to going the other way. I turned 18 when Gillette was shipping razors to guys on their 18th birthdays. Great marketing BTW. Used thighs cartridges for a solid 4-5 years. Got tired of spending the money and got an electric razor. Missed the shaving cream and got myself a safety razor. Love it. I used to think that a lot of woo subjects, telepathy, telekinesis, clairvoyance, astral projection etc. probably were real. We just needed to find better scientific evidence. Then, when older, rather than read books about the subject, I actually got to meet a lot of the more famous people in the field. It became very clear to me that all the people I met were either charlatans out to make money, sad deluded people weak on reasoning skills, or, if they were scientists, well-intentioned but extremely gullible. I became a skeptic and haven't looked back since. I treated my high school girlfriend very poorly. I manipulated her into doing things she didn't wanna do. I was the stereotypical nice guy. I'll never forgive myself for how I treated her. Years later I apologized, but I remember reading on Reddit that some victims are better off never hearing from their attacker ever again, so I've left her alone for years. We're still friends on Facebook, so I can see she's 10 times happier than she ever was with me, so at least I know she's either recovered or recovering, and that's good. Haven't been in a full-fledged relationship since. Too afraid I'll hurt someone again. Using a throwaway for reasons I'll explain later. My mum is a massive conspiracy theorist, especially on the case of vaccines. My little brother, who is 3 years younger, has autism, and you can guess what happened. As I grew older and became exposed to other thoughts on the subject via the internet, I quickly learned how batshit anti-vaccination is. Nowadays I completely believe vaccines are good and important, and once I'm old enough and self-sufficient to move out, I'm gonna go and catch up on all the jabs I've missed over the years. My mum is a lovely person and a great parent, but nowadays I don't even wanna talk to her cause every conversation turns into an opportunity to spout her balls. So I'm not using my main account, cause if she ever looks at it and sees this post, we are gonna have a big fight and I don't want to go through with that. Never had steak till I was 19 and always avoided potatoes. My mom was out of town, still living with parents back then, and my dad offered to make steak and loaded baked potatoes. I figured it was him trying to bond, so I ought to suck it up and eat a meal with him. Was trying to be less of an angsty teenager. So he went and grilled some medium steaks. Jesus Christ. Marinated steak with Dublin spices, courtesy of Baldwin, Michigan, with loaded baked potatoes absolutely changed my freaking world. That was the second best steak I can ever remember having. Great bonding moment for my dad and I, too. I hated steak all my life until I had one properly cooked. Turns out well done is not a great way to advocate steakery. Fish tacos. I was never a big fan of fish, especially white fish. I always thought fish tacos sounded bad, and why would anyone want fish tacos when you could have beef, chicken or pork? Then I finally had some fish tacos. They were amazing. Now I like to try them at different places, hoping to find even better fish tacos. Fish tacos can be the greatest thing or most disappointing thing to put in your mouth depending on the restaurant chef. Not me. One of my mates discovered in his early 20s that the toilet seat is not just for girls. Had been sitting on the actual rim of the toilet when he went for a crap. Fairly recently, and I'm not proud, I got married young and essentially went from one relationship to the next without stopping in between to have time to stand on my own. I've been married twice, divorced once, widowed once. Now I'm almost 50, and although I'm dating someone, there's no marriage on the horizon yet. I'm terrified. I've never been fully responsible for myself, and I haven't worked outside the home very much. It's not just that I'm unqualified, it's the whole mentality of working for a living. I'm not good at it. This is what happens to people who are spoiled. Why would you be good at it? You have had no practice. Keep at it though. Being able to live with yourself is a key component to making a successful relationship with someone else work, and worth it. I have been lifting for years now and have always made fun of dudes doing spin class at the gym. One of my gym bros decided he was going to give it a shot and I decided frick it, why not. I absolutely loved it and will add at least one session a week into my routine. That's really weird, look at those idiots getting in better shape. Always halfway argued that a hot dog was a sandwich. Had a student that claimed you cut a sandwich in half to make it easier to eat. If you cut a hot dog in half, you don't know what you're doing. 100% correct. A hot dog, including, obviously, the bun, etc., is not a sandwich. But is it a taco? Used to be a hardcore atheist and loved debating theists, Richard Dawkins style. Then I realized what actually the point of debating someone's belief or love. If they are not actually hurting anyone, it's like trying to convince someone to listen to pop music when they don't like it. That's pretty much my stance on religion and most crap. I don't care as long as you don't try to push it on me, then you can frick off. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.